Hey, what's up, guys? How are y'all doing? I'm doing great, and I'm here to recap the Unified 43 event that took place on Friday, March 4th, 2022, in Edmonton, Alberta. And it was the first real Canadian MMA event of the year. Let's say like that. We had the Palace Athena fight earlier in the year, but there was kind of an international flavor to that event too, and really the first real local Canadian MMA event of the year was taking place on March 4th. It was Unified, the biggest, the best MMA promotion in Canada, and they were putting on one hell of a show coming up from their Unified 42 event at the end of last year, which was absolutely amazing. And they did it again, guys. They did it again. It was an awesome event. We had in the main event the biggest, the best, the most high level, the most competitive, the best possible fight that you can book on the local circuit in Canada, between Shane Campbell and Cal Prepelic, and every second of it delivered. So I'm here to recap this fight. I'm here to recap the six other fights on the event because it was an amazing event. We were looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Big shout outs to Unified MMA for putting on an event of such a caliber. And let's just go ahead and speak about them fights, man. Why not? Shane Campbell, Cal Prepelic, like I said, the two best lightweights in the country. Cal Prepelic recently came back from the UFC with a win over Mikael Dufort at Samurai MMA, the fight of the year in 2021. An amazing matchup, and he was really riding off that momentum going into his fight against Shane Campbell. Ooh, he's been the man. He's been the pound for pound best fighter in Canada. He has titles in three weight classes at Unified MMA, and like they really took the two best lightweights in the country and made them fight each other. And before we speak about the action, I just gotta tip my hat to both of these guys because every people that has been involved in booking fights in Canada, trying to get the best guys to fight the best guys. It's kind of tough. People don't want to fight Shane Campbell. People don't want to fight Cal Prepel. Like, why would you? You could just try to build your record slowly and try to get a UFC shot with a good record and not having to fight these guys who could make you lose. Like Cal Prepel did not win this fight last night, and he just came back from the UFC, and now he's 1-1 since he came back, and like we're not gonna lie, his prospects to return to the UFC, like they just took a bump. He may not return to the UFC, or he may return, but in some years, like Shane Campbell, who's still waiting on that UFC return, like Jesse Ronson, who waited so fucking long before they called him back to the UFC, even got pump faked once. So, it's tough out here, and people they don't really want to fight the best. People they trying to avoid these people. They try to pad their records. So for Shane Campbell to say yes to a Cal Prepelec fight, and for Cal Prepelec to say yes to a Shane Campbell fight, these two guys, they are savages. They are the best. And we got to tip our hats off to these guys because it's so tough to book these fights, to book these enormous matchups. And Unified, shout out to them. They were able to do it. And huge shout out, like I said, to both of these fighters because they just took the fight. They just did it. And we had an amazing show in that main event because it was such a high level fight. Like in an era where you look at every UFC card like every weekend and you don't know half the guys on it, even if you're a hardcore fan, man. It happened to me at some point that there was a fighter on the UFC card that it's Danilo Marquez, and like I saw his name and I was like, yeah, I think I remember seeing this guy fight in the UFC maybe once. And then I looked at his topology and the guy was like 2-1 in the UFC. So even for me, a guy that covers the sports, that needs to be aware of everybody that's fighting and everybody that's doing this thing or that thing, like I don't even remember these guys because like the quality of the UFC events I felt so low that, man, is just bad. And when you look at a matchup like Shane Campbell and Cal Prepelec, you can't unsee it. These two guys needed to be in the UFC. It's almost a shame that they're fighting on a unified event because, man, they're so good. They're so high level. You look at this fight and you just switch the setup around it and put it in a UFC cage at UFC Apex, and like it's as much as a high level fight as any fucking fight on a UFC card at that moment. Even some of the main events, I'ma say it. So when it comes to the action. It was a good fight. I feel like Cal Prepolek started off good. Maybe was the more aggressive fighter for the two first minutes of the fight, but then the story of the fight really was Shane Campbell being able to make Cal Prepolek react with his feints, with his setups, and really land his combinations and just stay a little bit ahead of Cal Prepolek for the whole fight. I feel like Prepolek did really good to hang in there. Shane Campbell, who is, like I said, according to me, the best pound for pound fighter in the country at the moment, who is not fighting for the UFC or Bellator. He was not able to pull away. He's often able to maybe start not slow. He's not a slow starter per se, but he likes to get his reads in for the first 2 minutes and a half of a contest, and then he gets going. And when he gets going, nobody's able to hang with him. Nobody's able to stay up to par with him, and he always pulls apart like quite a lot from his opponents, and often even finishes them. But that wasn't the case with Cal Prepolek. He was able to hang in there, stay competitive. Yes, you could at almost any moment, I say, feel like Shane Campbell was the guy that was like doing the most by a little bit, that was landing the better shots by a little bit, that was doing the most efficient things by a little bit. But Cal Prepolek was competitive for the whole fight. It gave us quite a show. Like I said, super high level matchup, like super high level. It was great. I feel like Shane Campbell probably ran away with the 3 rounds. There was a judge that gave a round to Cal Prepolek. I'm not really mad about it, but I feel like Shane Campbell deserved to win the 3 rounds of that contest. And that's what he did. He's still on his winning streak. He's still beating everybody, and he just beat the number 2 in the country. So what does that guy has to do more like to get another UFC shot? The guy went to the UFC, was super young in his career. It was off his meme, basically. He did the Hadouken. You all remember that he did the Hadouken in the World Series of Fighting Cage, and that clip got really popular. And I feel like that's I won't say that's why they signed him, because he was already an amazing fighter that really deserved to fight for the UFC. But that meme, that popularity from that meme really increased his shot, and they signed him. And he maybe wasn't quite ready at the moment, even though he fought like James Krause and John McDessie and Eric Koch and guys like that. He wasn't quite ready, but now he's a different animal. He's the best fighter in the country. He's amazing. His grappling has went a very long way. As we've seen Friday night, his striking is still like some of the best Muay Thai you'll see, like basically in MMA at the moment. So Shane Campbell, amazing fighter. Congrats on the win. Cal Prepolek, man, what am I gonna say? This guy's amazing. I'm such a big fan of these two guys. It's almost a shame that we had to see one of them lose, but that's the way the fight game goes. And that night it was Cal Prepolek. He still did good. I feel like he should not be like disappointed in his performance or nothing like that. He was really fighting well and did good in that matchup, and it was a really close matchup. Even though, like I said, we may have to give Campbell the 3 rounds. It wasn't by a big margin. It was really a slim margin for those 3 rounds. And great performance for both. Super high level fight, one of the best fights we'll see this year. And really happy that Unified was able to put on such a matchup, and that the guys were able to accept such a matchup. So props to everybody involved. Amazing main event. But if they're not the fight of the year at the end of the year, that's because the fight of the year probably will be KB Bular and Stranya Gavrilovic. And that's super crazy because, like, man, I love KB. Like, he's an amazing fighter, super technical. But if you don't force KB to go and fight an exciting fight, he won't do it. Like, there's many KB fights that he has stayed super put at range. Even his UFC fight against Andreas Mikhailidis, the guy, like, I feel like KB, and I say it every time, I say it every fucking time I speak about KB, but I won't get past that one. KB should have won that fight. He was better than his opponent. He was more technical than his opponent. He just did not throw enough. And that could be a problem for KB Bular in some of his fights, but not against the Werewolf, because the Werewolf is insane. Stranya Gavrilovic is fucking crazy, guys. This guy is absolutely insane. He will go forward. He will throw punches and bunches and bombs. Like in the first round, I feel like you could have gave that first round to Strania because yes, he got outstruck. I feel, but the most powerful shots that landed were on Strania's side for the first round. I feel, and yes, maybe he landed like uh, 10, 20 less shots than KB because KB was really active with his jab, really active with his kicks, was countering well, was able to stay on his bike and really move efficiently in that fight. But it wasn't until the second round that he really got into a groove and that I feel like he was really taking over that fight and doing damage on Strania and making him bleed and busting his nose open with an amazing flying knee and stuff like that. So, first round, really tight. You've got the werewolf stalking like he does, throwing punches and bunches, throwing absolute bombs and hitting KB with bombs. And we got to give props to KB for the chin he showed in that fight. Real toughness from the guy, real amazing toughness from him. So, real close first round. It could go either way, I feel like. Second round, all KB, all KB. The guy who absolutely dominated that round. At some point, we was even wondering, oh, is Strania wearing down? Like, is he getting tired? Is he getting discouraged? Is his confidence affected in that fight? But you knew the werewolf. There was none of that shit happening. This guy, like I said plenty times already, he's insane. He does not give a fuck. And in the third round, he basically ate like 4, 5, 6 head kicks. And I won't say flush because he had his ends up, but he had his ends up and his forearms were hitting his face quite strongly because KB was kicking his head and kicking his head, and Strada was letting it happen. So KB maybe threw 5 to 6 consecutive head kicks that all hit really hard on Strada's forearms. So caused some damage. And what did Strada do? Absolutely nothing. He just went fucking crazy and won the round. He won the third round after getting his shit beat for like, let's say a good 7, 6 minutes and a half, 7 minutes, because did not win the second round at all, like I said, and lost the first minute and a half of the final round. But when he got going, and like Strania knew that he had to do something in the final round of that contest if he wanted to make it closer or have a chance to finish his opponent. And he went absolutely crazy. And man, it was an amazing fight. If you guys could like have the chance to get a hold on a UFC Fight Pass subscription just to watch that fight, it's worth it, man. It's absolutely worth it. It was an amazing fight, an all-time great Canadian MMA fight. Might even I say we'll remember that fight for a long time, and that's what happens when Strania fights. We miss that guy for so long. He had trouble over trouble over trouble, and he was able to make his return at Samurai MMA. Gave us the knockout of the year, an amazing highlight reel finish with the Donkey Kong Hammer Fist, and then moves on to Unified and gives us an absolutely classic fight against KB Bueller. And I'm gonna give Strania the credit for that fight because, like I said, KB is a technical fighter, and he really showed it in that fight. This is the fight that he was the fact that he was the most technical fighter that made him win this contest in the end. But if you just let KB circle and jab and throw a body kick and you don't do much about it, yes, he's super crafty. He may be able to find the head kick knockout like he did against Dewsbury. He might be able to force you to shoot and just choke you out with his long limbs like he used to do before he went to the UFC. But sometimes he can be a fighter that just like sticks to the game plan, and I won't say make it boring, but make it how can I say a more conservative fight? Let's say it like that, a more conservative fight. If KB feels like he's winning and he does not have to do much more than he's already doing in a fight, he won't really do it, and that's okay. Like that's absolutely the smart way to fight. Like I'm not here to judge. I would absolutely fight the same. I'm not a risk taker. I wouldn't go out there and try to get my head kicked and flush like Strania did. So I feel like KB has the most intelligent way of fighting, but Strania really forced him to fight tooth and nails for that victory, and he did. So major props to him. KB wins the decision. Like I said, if somebody comes up to me and says, no, Strania should have won that fight 29-28, I won't be the guy to be unhappy about that, because the first round was really close, and I feel like Strania may have landed the better shots in that first round, even though he didn't land the most shots in that very first round. So score it how you want. I don't give a fuck. It was an amazing fight. Give me more of that shit right now. I'll rewatch it many times. It was an amazing fight. And like, shout out to everybody involved in that one. Then Ryan Ford was making his return. And I think I'm here to say that it did not go the way it was planned to go. Because not because he lost, because he won, but the way that it happened. Like, no way that you guys are telling me that Ryan Ford came into that fight with the idea of out grappling the one Pickney. That's not what he thought. Ryan Ford is an amazing striker, an amazing boxer. The guy has knockouts for years, and man, they grappled, and I liked it. I'm gonna be quite honest, I liked it a lot. It was I'm gonna say something weird right now, so just hang on and let me explain. But I would say it was a slow paced scramble fest because, like, first Ryan Ford came out like a house of fire, absolutely hurt his opponent, put him down to the ground, hurt him on the ground, was able to secure the position, close rear naked choke attempt in the very first round. And then, like, it was every 30 seconds to 1 minute, there was a switch, there was a sweep, there was a reversal, there was something happening so that the guy that was on top ended up on bottom. So Ford started with good stuff, renegade choke attempt, not working. Oh, ends up on bottom. Pickney sweeps him. So now Pickney's on top. Pickney's on top, and there's stuff. And whoa, Ford is able to scramble and takes back top position. And it happened like that for a round and a half, basically. Before the Omi Ryan Ford was able to secure a triangle for that victory. So, like, there's no way that's the way Ryan Ford planned that fight to go. It was cool. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, but like, there's absolutely no way that Ryan Ford, who knew the one Pickney was a good grappler, said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna just go there and out grapple this guy." And as much as I have to give some props to Pickney, who like the one Pickney was not coming here to win. Like, nobody thought the one Pickney was winning that fight, and then he really came and he really fought his ass off, and he really fought to win and was able to land some good takedowns, have some good top position. I don't feel like he was winning because, like I said, the close submission attempt and the huge power shots in the beginning of the first round, I feel like did the difference for that round. So I scored the first one 4-4, and he was able to get the finish in the second round. So I don't feel like Pickney was winning, but he was really fighting to win. So I got to give him props for that. But that stops here because his triangle defense was awful. Like, really, like, I get that when you get caught in a triangle setup, you want to stay calm. So he stayed calm there, did not do any like crazy moves to get out of it, like to pull out of it. That's how you get armbarred, by the way. Or to like, he did not do anything crazy. He stayed calm. You like, he was aware of what position he was in, and like was really fine towards, not really fine towards, I would say he was staying there and staying put, staying calm, saying, okay, I know where I'm at, I'm trying to not do something stupid. But then, like, his calmness just turned into no defense, like, basically, because at one point Ford kind of realized that Pickney was kind of stalling into his triangle setup. So he just closed his triangle, put the arm in the right place, and Pickney did not defend. He just did not defend. He just stayed there and let his arm go across his throat and let Ford tighten his triangle up and let Ford squeeze on his head. And he submitted him. He fucking submitted him. And like, shout outs to Ryan Ford. That's one way to make a comeback, man. I think nobody really thought that Ryan Ford was gonna come in and triangle choke a guy. So I gotta give him props to that. But like, man, the one, like, yeah, I'm sure you know one or two triangle defenses. Like, there's many ways that you could at least have tried to defend the triangle. So that's my small criticism here, and I feel like maybe you should have done a better job of defending here. Like, like I said, I get that once you get caught into the triangle setup, you want to stay calm and not do anything stupid because you can get armbarred, or you can get swept, or you can get like omoplata sweep or anything. Lots of things could happen from that position. But like, he stayed calm and let Ryan Ford finishes triangle. So I guess that's not the way you do with my man, but props nonetheless. He came here to fight. Then Neil Anderson, Lucas Neufeld, amazing fight. Like anticipated. The only thing that I feel like we did not anticipate is how dominant Neil Anderson was gonna be in that fight. He was able to really deal with Lucas Neufeld's burst of offense. He really reminded me of like before yesterday, I did not make the realization that Lucas Neufeld and Majed Amu were training partners. I know, like I knew they were both training for CMAC and Lee Main, but I did not like make the link in my head that both of these guys were training partners. And like it makes sense because they're both like real fighters on the feet who burst with attacks and really don't give a fuck about eating a shot for to give a better one. And they're really scrambly on the ground. They got good guillotine chokes attempt and like really similar styles, not identical styles, but I could see how these guys would be training together. And Neil was really able to use his range to cause trouble on the feet. And the difference was really his grappling. Like when Neil Anderson was able to shoot for some takedowns and was able to get established on the ground, he's shown us amazing transitions, amazing back take. He was super slick with his grappling at multiple really close submission attempts in that fight. So much that I feel like he probably won the third round 10-8. So that's why I gave him a 30-26 to like two of the judges did. The other judge gave a 29-28 to Neufeld. I don't really see that score. I don't really see how Lucas won around in that fight. He was able to stay competitive. He showed incredible toughness for not getting finished in that matchup. It was like really something because Anderson had multiple really close submission attempts. So Neufeld did good by not getting finished in that matchup, but I don't feel like he did enough to win a round. And Neil Anderson, that was like if I had to give out an award for the best performance, the best single performance of the evening, I would give it to Neil Anderson. Like I feel like Shane Campbell did really well, but it was still a close fight, closely contested. I feel like Buller, Gevkilovich should both have like all the money and all the awards after that fight. Ryan Ford, like I said, maybe not when the way that he anticipated it. We're gonna speak about the three other matchups that were before that in a couple moments. But for the performance of the night, the guy that was the most impressive, the most dominant, that I feel did the best and the most impressive work against a good opponent, against an amazing opponent, like a top 5 featherweight in the country. I feel like you gotta give that to Neil Anderson. Amazing performance for him, and man, the guy is number 2 or 3 in the country at featherweight, depending on how you rank Majed Amu, who defeated him in his last fight. I feel like there's a lot that could be said about that fight. Yes, Majed won, was not winning on the scorecards. It was for a reason that I gave that fight the comeback of the year or the upset of the year last year, because Majed, he did an amazing job to get that finish late in that fight, but he maybe wasn't ahead on the scorecards. And Neil Anderson just made us forget that loss quite rapidly with this amazing performance at Unified 43. So major props to him. Great fighter. I feel like him and Alex Morgan, like how crazy would that fight be? But I don't want to see it. Like I really don't want to see that fight. I want to see Neil Anderson and Alex Morgan fight other guys on the Contender Series this summer, because that's where they are. They're ready. They're amazing. They're super crafty fighters in one of the best weight division that there is in MMA. And I feel like both of these guys could add a lot to the UFC roster at 145. So Alex Morgan, Neil Anderson, please do not fight each other and just fucking go to the Contender Series, because we need you guys in the UFC. You're such amazing fighters. Then my man Zachary Powell against Cole Campbell, and it was a good fight. And Zachary Powell really did great in that one. He really like he needed that win, but like he did not need that win that much, because everybody saw him win his last fight. But still, he did not win his last fight on the scorecards, even though we're still scarred by that decision. It was absolutely the worst decision I have seen in my life, and I stand by it. But Zachary needed to erase that performance, erase that sour taste from his mouth. And man, he did absolutely great against Cole Campbell. First round, I feel like what really made him win that round was his striking. Is really powerful striking, landed some powerful leg kicks, was able to land some great counters, some great hook counters, was able to land with the overhand and the straight right. Did some really good work on the feet. Campbell, too, though. It was a close round. And of course, Zachary Powell's grappling was probably the deciding factor in the what like made it clear that he had won that round. But really good first round, really good striking display from Powell. Then the second round, I feel like you could have gave that round to Cole Campbell because he was able to do an adjustment that he shot on Zachary Powell and he was absolutely unable to take Zachary Powell down. It was clear since the first takedown attempt of that fight that Powell was the better wrestler, the more technical wrestler, even maybe the bigger guy and the stronger guy in a contest. So when you got a guy that's a better wrestler and a stronger guy than his opponent, is going to be a tough one. But Campbell found out that when he was shooting, as soon as as soon as Powell, sorry, was defending, Campbell could just disengage and throw fists, and he landed almost every time. And I feel like he had some good success striking while breaking off the clinch in that second round. And when he got taken down, he was able to remain really active from his back and really, I feel, caused some trouble in his guard for Zachary Powell. And no, I don't want to give him the round because he was landing some shots on the bottom, because that goes back to the story of the Dario fight. And I feel like if you're getting absolutely controlled, just throwing arm punches from under is not what makes you win a round. But Cole Campbell was landing many punches and was doing really good work with his butterfly guard. Was really, I feel, giving trouble to Zachary Powell in his guard. And I feel like Powell was the guy, like, I won't say hanging on for dear life because he wasn't in any trouble in that round, was just like maybe getting outworked a little bit from bottom position. So I feel like the second round could have went to Cole Campbell, even though I'm not mad that the judges scored that for Powell because he had a mount. He was able to secure the mount at a point in that second round, and he has some really good takedowns, some good grappling from top control. So yeah, he probably deserved that round, but I feel like it was the closer round. And if you want to score a round for Cole Campbell in that fight, it was the second one. But then in the third, even though Campbell seemed like the fresher fighter, but still I gotta give some huge props to Zachary Powell here, because I feel like one of the main factors why he lost against Dario is the body language. He really looked exhausted between the rounds. And I know you're not supposed to score what happens between the rounds, but he really looked exhausted. And if you were looking at the body language in the Dario fight, Dario looked like the guy who was confident and was winning, and Powell looked like the guy who was absolutely gassed out and within like an inch of death. And that did not happen here. Yes, he was not the fresher fighter heading into the third round, but like if you compare the state he entered that third round in this fight compared to the Dario fight, that's night and day. He was really fresher than in the Dario fight, and his body language was way more confident. And man, he knew what he had to do, just out wrestled Cole Campbell in that round. And it was his turn to make a good adjustment because he really felt like Cole outworking him in the guard in the second round. So as soon as he was able to land some takedown, the first things that he did was to pass. It was to attempt passing that guard. And you know, in jiu-jitsu, when you're on bottom in your full guard, you're kind of in control of the action. I feel, especially if you got a good guard, and the half guard's really a 50-50 position. And then when you pass the half guard, that's where in jiu-jitsu you're really in control. In MMA is absolutely different, because in the guard, I feel like that's kind of a 50-50 position, because if the guy under has a good guard, he's able to do some things, to try some submission, try some sweep attempts. But the guy on top, because of the punching, is able to land some damage and get the control time. So I feel like it's 50-50 position. But in MMA, as soon as you go into the half guard, you're in full control. Like, half guard is one of the best position to establish some punches, some ground and pound. And when you pass the guard, yes, of course, like in jiu-jitsu, if you're on top, you're in full control. But I feel like the half guard is one of the best and one of the most efficient position on top in MMA. And Powell knew it, and Powell was able to pass to Avgard as soon as they went to the ground. And that's really how he was able to dominate that round and really do some good things, take the back, have some good ground and pound, have some good submission attempts, because he was able to establish his control in the Avgard. And from there, he was able to pass and do some amazing stuff. So major props to Zachary Powell. He's still undefeated, if you know what I mean. And man, he's still rolling on as one of the greatest Canadian prospects out there. From probably, not even probably, because they're still in the lead. Like last year, the best camp in Canada was Niagara Top Team. Like for Canadian fighters, it was Niagara Top Team by far. Yes, TriStar has a lot of like international fighters. So if I count the records of all these international fighters, yes, they're probably in more fights than Niagara Top Team. But if you're looking at the Canadian level, Niagara Top Team was the best camp in Canada last year. And this year, they're still undefeated with wins now from Powell, wins from Jasmine, wins from Ashley Nichols, Aaron Jeffries. So they're already 4-0, and the year is not even started yet. So we could say the best camp in the country, Niagara Top Team, as one of the best prospects in the country, Zachary Powell. Shout out to them. Good stuff. Then Ali Charkey, Sandeep Sran, like I don't want to say it like that, but was like the least entertaining fight on the event for sure, because it was not competitive at all. Like at least Powell versus Campbell, Campbell was not winning, but he was able to do some good stuff to land some damage, even he was on bottom, like do some good things with his butterfly hooks, was able to land some good shots standing here and there. That wasn't really the case with Sandeep Sran. And Ali Charkey, even though like it wasn't the best fight of the event, like I said, I feel like that's exactly what he had to do. You know, sometimes when you look at a prospect, you prefer seeing him win than seeing him being the most entertaining fighter out there, because like we've saw Ali in his last fight. Yes, he had a tough test in front of him. He had an amazing fighter in front of him, but really lost his cardio in that fight. Really lost his cardio at an amazing first round, but then really lost the fight and even got finished in the third round by Chris Chapman. And yes, Chris Chapman way more experienced than him, way more schooled than him, like way more complete than him as a fighter. But Charkey is a great prospect, and when you see a great prospect have a loss, you want to see him come back really strong from that loss, and that's exactly what he did. So I'm not here to complain at all, because he really needed to prove to himself that he could go the 15 minutes and still be fresh at the end of it. So if Charkey would have come in and get a first round submission, let's say like that, he submitted Sran in the very first round, I would have said, oh yeah, good performance. That's a good way to come back into the win column for him. But have I really seen what I needed to see to regain confidence in him as a prospect? And that answer would have been no. But he just came into that fight, landed some good shots on the feet, landed some takedowns, dominated his opponent from pillar to post. Absolutely dominant victory. Was fresh at the end, showed us that he was able to go 15 minutes and like to manage his energy way better than he did in his second pro fight. And honestly, as I said, it was not the best fight on the event. It was probably the worst fight on the event. It was not a bad fight, but the event was such like amazing and action filled that they would. This was the slower fight on the event, but like I said, that's exactly what I wanted to see and what I needed from Ali Charkey to regain all confidence in him, to regain confidence in his prospect status. Because yes, sometimes prospects get into really weird situations and they suffer some weird losses. That's growing pains that you often see in MMA, but you want to see the guy bounce back from it. And there's no better way that Ali Charkey could have bounced back from that loss. So major props to him. Another guy that we need to keep our eyes on, because he's good and he knows what he's doing. He's from a good camp too, and he's there to stay, man. He's gonna be a prospect to watch for in the future. So major props to him. And that leads us to the first fight of the event. An absolutely wild contest between Mac Larson and Lorenzo Siles. Another fight like Ford and Pigney that I feel like there was so many momentum swing, so many like sweeps and position changes. Oh no, look at this guy, just took the back, and oh no, he just fell. Now he's on bottom, and what's happening? And like I feel like Larson came in stronger in the first round, had the better chances in the first round. So I gave Mac Larson the first round. Obviously, you have to give Lorenzo Celis the second round. And I feel like Lorenzo Celis was probably on his way to win the third round. But with 30 seconds, a little more than 30 seconds left, Mac Larson was able to secure a rear naked choke, get the victory. I know he did not look quite happy about his performance, and like I feel him when you're a good prospect like him, good young fighter like him with so many skills. Like this guy's already pretty good, pretty complete as a fighter. He's able to grapple, he's able to strike, he's able to do everything. He's able to keep a good pace and not really fall off on his gas tank. And like there's lots of things that he does really well. So of course he probably expected a more dominant win, a more dominant performance. But that's things that you want to see from prospects. Like I said, Charkey had some adversity in his last fight. I came back in his fight against Sran and was really able to show us some improvements and show us that he worked on the flaws that caused him his loss. And that's the same thing for Larson here. He had lost his first fight, is not by a wide margin. It was really an amazing fight that Mac Larson had in his very first pro contest. Was it against Derek Lang? Do I remember well? It was like early beginning of last year. It's either Derek Lang or Matt LeBlanc, but yeah, Derek Lang. Yeah, I remember Derek Lang, and he had some really good moments in that fight. And unfortunately, like he fell victim to the rear naked choke, and I feel like he really worked on a lot of things in his game and was really able to, even though he may have not been winning that fight, he was able to fight through adversity and secure the comeback win. So that's an amazing performance for him. We got to give him major props for that. And that concludes my recap of this amazing Unified 43 event. We had our hands full of amazing MMA action on that night. We were waiting for the beginning of the year 2022 in the world of Canadians mixed martial arts, and there's no better way to start it off with the best promotion, putting on the best fights. Shane Campbell, Kyle Prepelec, I won't say it enough. It was an absolute honor to get to watch that fight. Bular Gavrilovich, that's already a classic. The rest of the card gave us really good action. Neil Anderson, Ryan Ford, Zachary Powell, Charkey Larson. It was amazing. So major props to Unified. Hope you guys like my recap. I would appreciate if you left a like on the publication for me, on the video for me. That helps a lot. Also, subscribe if you guys liked it. If you want to see more of that content, I will be here to give that to you. So, major props to Unified. That was a great event. And we'll be back with Unified 44 next time. See you.